Hi, this is Miss Sek. This is a pre-recorded class for Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. This is for Math 8 and Foundations for Algebra. I expect you to have watched the video Constant Rate of Change before you watch this pre-recorded live class. This lesson is on describing functional relationships. What is the rule to represent the table? So the function for this table, the y-intercept is 1 because that's the value of y when x is 0. So that's why it's plus 1. And the slope is plus 3 over 1. This is plus 3. This is over 1. So the slope is 3. The function is y equals 3x plus 1. Let's watch a video.
We are now going to describe and analyze graphic representations of real-world functional relationships. What is the title of the graph seen here? The title is Shantae's Workday. The graph of this function shows the relationship between time in minutes and distance from home in feet during Shantae's workday. What is similar about this graph to other function graphs with which we have worked? The graph has an x-axis, a y-axis, labels for the axes, and a title. What is something that is different about this graph? This graph does not have a scale on either axis. What does the x-axis represent? It represents the amount of time elapsed in minutes. And what does the y-axis represent? The y-axis represents the distance from home in feet. What happens as we move from left to right on the x-axis? Time is passing or increasing. Using a green-colored pencil, circle the sections or intervals where the graph is increasing. What do these sections represent? In these sections, Shantae's distance from home is increasing, or she is getting farther from home. How do you know this? We know this because the vertical distance from the x-axis is increasing. Now, using a red-colored pencil, circle the sections or intervals where the graph is decreasing. Here is where the graph is decreasing. What does this section represent? In this section, Shantae's distance from home is decreasing, or she is getting closer to home. How do you know this? We know this because the vertical distance from the x-axis is decreasing. Are there any parts of the graph that have not been circled? Yes. Identify the portions of the graph that have not been marked with green or red. There are 2 horizontal line intervals. What is happening to the time during those horizontal intervals? Time is increasing or passing. What is happening to the distance in these intervals? The distance stays the same or is constant. What does this mean in the situation? It means that Shantae remained at the same place for a period of time during her day.
These 2 intervals are when Shantae has a 0 slope.
decreasing interval shows Shantae rushing because she is running late. The first increasing interval. How do you know? The line is steep, and the distance from home increases in a shorter amount of time when compared to the other increasing interval.
Okay, let's look at a sample question together. A function has the following properties. It is increasing and linear when the value of x is in between -5 and -3. So it is increasing and linear. It remains constant between -3 and 0. It decreases and is linear between 0 and 3. And it's increasing and nonlinear between 3 and 5. So this is linear. So answer choice A is not true. It is increasing and linear between -3 and 5. That's true. It remains constant between -3 and 0. So it's decreasing. So answer choice B is also not true. It is increasing and linear between -5 and -3. That's true. It remains constant between -3 and 0. That's true. It's decreasing and linear between 0 and 3. So it's increasing. So answer choice C is not true. Answer choice D. It is increasing and linear between -5 and -3. True. It is constant between -3 and 0. True. It's decreasing and linear between 0 and 3. True. And it's increasing and nonlinear between 3 and 5. So answer choice D is our answer. So our answer is answer choice D. Okay, this is a poll that the live class is doing. The answer to the poll is the function is decreasing. A function is decreasing if it's going from left to right, like we read. We read from left to right. If it's going from left to right, it's decreasing. Let's look at another question. Which statement is correctly describes the function on the given interval? A. The function is increasing and nonlinear between -7 and -4. So it is increasing and nonlinear. The function is increasing and linear between -4 and 1. So this is false because it has a 0 slope. And the function is increasing and linear between 1 and 4. It is increasing, but it's nonlinear. So the answer is A. Let's look at another video.
We are now going to interpret and analyze graphs of real-world function relationships. Jen sells t-shirts for her business. The graph shown on the left of the screen shows the sales trends for her company over a one-year period. Using the information from the graph, explain how each part of the graph relates to the story. What do you notice about the graph? The graph does not have a scale. Why do you think there are no scales on the graphs for this lesson? There is a qualitative relationship between the two elements. The relationships are described using words like increasing, decreasing, linear, and nonlinear, and analyzing the graph using those ideas, not to create an algebraic function to describe the relationship. Let's look at the graph and the corresponding events to provide an explanation for the event. Event A is that for the first 3 months, sales steadily increase, starting at 0. What is a possible explanation for event A? The increase is shown as a line for about 25% of the graph. This would account for 3 out of the 12 months in a year. Now let's look at event B. At the beginning of the 4th month, Sales increased drastically and continued this way for 2 months. What is a possible explanation for event B? The line is steeper than months 1 through 3, showing higher sales for months 4 and 5. Now let's look at event C. The machines hit the maximum amount of t-shirts that they can produce, and sales neither increased nor decreased for 5 months. What is a possible explanation for event C? We can see that where event C is concerned, the line is horizontal for these months 6 through 10. I'll start with the question again. What is a possible explanation for event C? The line is horizontal for months 6 through 10, which means that there was no change in the amount of sales during that time. Now let's talk about event D. Jen's business was not able to satisfy the needs of a larger client, so the company experienced a dramatic decline in sales for 1 month. What is a possible explanation for event D? The line decrease is steep for the next month because Jen lost the profits from a big sale in a short amount of time. And let's talk about event E. The last month, sales began increasing gradually again. What is a possible explanation for event E? For month 12, the line shows an increase.
Okay, let's practice. Who wins the race and how do you know? Antonio and Juan are in a 4-mile bike race. The graph below shows the distance of each racer in miles as a function of time t. So you can see that their distance is the same. They both end at 4 miles, but Juan ends in 13 minutes, but Antonio wins in 15 minutes. So who won the race? Juan won the race because he did the same amount of distance in less time. Okay, this is the answer to the poll that the live class is doing. This function is increasing because as we read it from left to right, it is going uphill. A truck rental company charges a $150 rental fee in addition to charging $50 per item. Graph the linear function relating to the total cost of the rental in $C to the total number of miles M on the axis. So I'm going to use Jamboard to show the answer to this question. So let's start. So a truck rental company charges a $150 rental fee and an additional 50 cents per mile. So let's graph that. $150 rental fee is right here. And so at 0 miles, I have to, that the truck rental company charges $150. Okay, and then let's see where it is at 500 miles and 1,000 miles. So we can use the function 150 plus 50 cents per mile, where 150 is the y-intercept and the slope is 50 cents per mile. So let's go to our calculator. We're looking at 500 miles. So 150 plus 50 cents plus times 500. 150 plus 50 cents times 500 miles is $400. So we can put the $400 here, and then plot 500 miles costs $400. Now, let's do the same thing for 1,000 miles. 150 plus 50 cents per mile times 1,000 miles. So 150 plus 50 cents per mile times 1,000 miles. $650. So we can plot $1,650. We can draw the line. I hope your line looks better than mine. If the truck is driven 0 miles, what is the cost to the customer? So at 0 miles, the cost to the customer is $150. And what is the rate of change relates to the cost miles driven? So the rate of change is 50 cents per mile. It costs every mile that the truck driver drives, he ends up, it costs him 50 cents more. So 50 cents per mile. Okay, let's watch another video.
Let's take a look at the graph seen here. The title of this graph is How John Spent His Saturday. We can see that the x-axis represents time in hours, and the y-axis represents the distance from home in miles. What do you notice about the graph? It has no scale. For this activity, look at the graph and create the steps in a scenario to represent John's Saturday. What could be happening in step A? It is possible that John rushed to his piano lesson today. How do you know? He covered a considerable distance in a short amount of time when compared to his total day. What could be happening in step B? It is possible that he rushed back home to get changed for soccer practice. How do you know? He covered a considerable distance in a short amount of time again, as he got closer to his home this time. What could be happening in step C? He quickly made it to soccer practice, where he practiced for about an hour. How do you know? He covered a good bit of distance in a short time, and then remained at the same distance away from home for about an hour. What could be happening in step D? He decided to take a quick trip to a nearby diner to have dinner with his friends. How do you know? He moves farther away from home, and it doesn't seem to be a long period of time before he remains at the restaurant for a period of time. And what could be happening in step E? He biked home as fast as possible so that he wouldn't miss his favorite television show. How do you know? The slope is steep, and he covers a large amount of distance in a very short time as he makes his way back home. We created this set of events to describe John's day. Note that this is only one possibility, as
Okay, let's practice. What do the x-axis and the y-axis represent? Okay, the x-axis represents the time in minutes, and the y-axis represents the distance from home in feet. Where is the graph increasing? So the graph is increasing in the beginning, and the graph is increasing in the middle. Where is the graph decreasing? The graph is decreasing at the end as she heads back home. Where is the zero slope? So there's a zero slope here, and there's a zero slope here. Okay. These are the answers to the game that the students in the live class are doing. So the question is, describe the relationship between the number of gallons of gas and the cost in dollars. So if you look at the graph, 15 divided by 4, so we're using the change in y over the change in x. 15 divided by 4 is $3.75. So the answer is C. The scout group went on an all-day hike. The graph below shows the relationship between the number of hours spent on the trails and the number of miles the group hiked. Which statement best interprets information provided by the graph? A, the scout group hiked at a constant rate for the entire day. Well, that can't be true because they took a break right here. Okay. The scout group B, the scout group stopped for a rest during their hike. So here we see that they stopped for a rest. So B could be true. C, the rate at which the group hiked increased continuously through the day. So that's not true because we can obviously see they took a rest because they have a zero slope. And D, the rate at which the group hiked increased some of the time and decreased some of the time. So we don't see any decrease. So D is not true. So the answer is B. Are there any questions? You have 2 days to complete 2 assignments, 1 vocabulary assignment and 1 math assignment. Please do not do more than 2 assignments, for I cannot grade more than 2. If you want to do a tougher assignment, that is what the project is for. Right after class, right now, I'm going to give the Kahoot for the people who take a live class. So the people who are watching this pre-recorded video, you have to do the math assignment that's in Google Classroom, or you can do the line paper assignment. Thanks. See you next week.